Hey, everybody. Thanks once again for tuning into the pod and the pendulum. We actually, Jerry and I, have a very special guest tonight. We have William Butler on, or he just told me I can call him Sir, I guess, apparently.
No,
or...
I said Billy. And yes, I am a very special person. I just pulled up in my very special little miniature car, and here I am, a clown.
A clown car? Are there like little clowns pouring out of it?
Yes.
Fantastic.
What's going on, guys?
We're doing well. And Billy, we know you as from playing Mike in Friday the 13th, Part 7, A New Blood. And actually, you have a pretty fun distinction. Like, you're the only person I know that's been killed by Jason, Leatherface, and Freddy Krueger, correct?
And the zombies from Night of the Living Dead, and the ghoulies. I just am one of those actors that they're like, kill him as fast as you can. Kill him. But yeah. Yes, and it was fun, and I didn't miss it for a long time, but I have to say, I'm almost ready to like dip my toe back in it a little bit. We'll see.
So we need to get Jason Blum on the phone right now and be like,
yeah, let's do that. Yeah, I just pitched something over there about 8 months ago. I'm not so sure that I would be their go-to. Mm-hmm. That's all I'll say about my meeting.
Already starting.
Yeah.
Great. So, actually, my first question for you, Billy, is, by the time you get to Friday the 13th, Part 7, like, we're 6 movies in, like, everybody knows these franchises at this point. Like, coming on board with it, like, were you excited to do this movie? Like, were you a fan heading into it, or was you just see it as just like another gig?
Excited is not the word. I couldn't. Well, first of all, I kind of backed up. Oh, by the way, that's my dog dying in the background. So when you hear his death rattle, I figured I was going to go in the other room, but I figured it might add to the horror ambience of the show with a dog dying in the background. No, he's not dying. He just has something. I don't know what. He has black lung. He used to work in a coal mine. But anyway, so I kind of backdoored myself into the business because I started out sweeping the floors at John Buechler's shop and just being in love with movies and just wanting to be on set and being around actors and just absolutely loving John Buechler and Charles Band and just making so many wonderful friends in that shop that many people that I'm still very good friends with to this day. And Buechler was such an amazing guy that he knew that I was such a Tom Savini geek. I was such a Friday the 13th geek. Like, it's all I wanted to hear about was horror films, how they're made, when they're made. And then when I would go home at night, me and Vulich would watch the same VHS tape 100 times over and over again, until one of our parents threw us out, or even when we moved to LA, we would just fall asleep watching them. And I really loved it. So when the movie came up, I had actually made the transition. Transition is a scary word to use in this day, but I still had all my bits and pieces, but I had transitioned into an actor from doing effects, and I had done a bunch of stuff. And I said to Buechler, will you watch my tape? And is there any chance that I can read for the movie? And he was like, absolutely. You could absolutely read for the movie. I couldn't believe it. So originally, you want me to shut up and you ask questions? Because I'll just keep talking.
Absolutely. No, you can talk. You go.
Okay. So originally, and you can read about all of this and more in my upcoming book that's coming out next summer. Not this summer, but next summer. But anyway, so originally, he got a script, and he was kind of being quiet about it at first. He wasn't saying that it was Friday the 13th. He said it was a movie called Birthday Bash. Yeah. And it was like a slasher film. And I was like, oh, please let me be in it. He's like, there's not really any parts in it for you. It's like all rockers. Like, originally, the original script, it was like a group of like rockers. And I was like, no, I can do it. So the guys in the shop, we pried this wig off of one of the old effects and put it on me, and I looked so hideous. I looked like, skinny then, but I still looked like kind of a frightening combination between Meatloaf and Tina Turner. I looked very weird, but it kind of worked. It kind of worked. And so he's like, all right, you can read for this part. So I went to Anthony Barneo's office, and it was right across the street from the original Empire offices, which was on La Brea and Hollywood, near there. La Brea and Hollywood. And I went in, and I read for the part, and it was a stupid kind of goofy 80s stereotypical kind of dopey rocker guy. Back then, they never really used real rockers. They just people like me in like long wigs, and then said, act goofy, and so it wasn't that hard of an audition really. And then I remember I had to pretend to die, and by that time I had died in a bunch of movies, so I knew how to milk it, and I knew how to I knew the vernacular that these guys want to hear whenever, I knew what to say to them to like at least do a decent audition. And if I got it, I got it, because every actor in town read for this movie. By now, this was a juggernaut franchise, and if you were in a Friday the 13th, you were in the club. Like, you were going to keep working. Yeah. So wanted to do it, but I also knew better, which still stands with any meeting now, to want something too bad is a big, huge mistake. So I played it cool. I did my audition. I went home to my shitty apartment on Franklin and Gower, and then by the end of the day, Anthony Barneo said, I want to book you. And I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. And
at what point did the character of Michael go from that rocker to the kind of more straight-laced take on the character?
Okay, so the script had about 20 drafts before it got shot, and the characters turned more Ivy League. I don't know why. Maybe they did a survey and they think more Ivy League people go and watch horror films. I don't think that's true, but maybe they had their fill of like fake stereotypical rockers, because they had so many in the past ones. And again, all people that are not really rock and roll, just kind of people in scuzzy outfits.
Well, that and it's a lot of fun to watch the Ivy League kind of people get killed in these movies.
Yeah, particularly me. I'm so irritating on screen. It's always fun to watch me get killed. So anyway, so then the new draft came, and when the new draft came, I was so relieved, because it was just white bread, vanilla wafer people. But the problem is my part got smaller. But I was so happy to be in the movie that I didn't care. And the cool thing is that I offered to come and help them. Like, I mean, I put on Kane's mask, and I think I know I made that when Terry Kaiser gets killed with that weed whacker that's like a blade. I remember I made the blade cardboard, and then I did a bunch of like little weird things. I think I made up Gash Man, the guy that gets the hatchet in the face. I made up Gash Man. That's actually my friend Kenny Meredith. It's not really Larry Cox, because Larry was off that night. Called him Gash Man because he had a huge gash in his face, obviously, and was really, really fun, and it was great. It was terrific that it turned out to be yuppies, because I didn't have to really even try, and it was a nothing part that turned into me working for 2 months, because I was in so many weird shots. Like, one minute I'm in a tree, and the next minute I'm in a Polaroid, and the next minute she's seeing me somewhere else, like throwing up.
What I've always found interesting about your role in particular is, your part, you said, got smaller, but if you really think about it, the entire movie's about your character. I mean, all these people are coming together basically to celebrate your birthday.
And the best part is, the mileage that I got out of this, other than being in an amazing franchise, was that I was Kane's very first kill, even though it doesn't show on the movie in that order. The first shot that we filmed of the entire movie with Kane was Kane stabbing me in the kitchen and me throwing up the blood. So that feels pretty good, because by that, Kane and I had worked many times together before that, and it was a
prison, right?
Yeah, it was a complete fluke that that he was Jason, because I made him up as that ghost in prison. Vigo, he played Vigo's father. And it turned out pretty good. The color scheme and everything was really good. And I think that was the sort of, not that I designed the makeup, I applied the makeup. I want to make that very clear. But I think the color scheme and everything and the look was sort of the design that Buechler wanted to take just a little bit further for Friday the 13th. And they already had Kane's cast, and Kane is a great actor who fully understands suit work, and he knows that it's not just walking around like some of these Jasons walk around like they're wearing high heels. Kane really understood the body language, the breathing, he stays. I'm sure you guys know he stays in character the whole time, and it was just such a overall blessing. I'm so proud to be a part of that franchise. And again, I'm just a nerd who happened to get tapped on the head with a magic wand. Like I didn't work hard to get this. It just somehow happened. That part of my.
And it sounds like there was with Buechler and you coming from like an effects background overall, that there was a real like kind of like everybody pitch in and do something, kind of like a family type of atmosphere on the set of this movie too. Oh
my gosh, are you kidding me? Well, Buechler was without a doubt the nicest, most giving, most considerate human being you'd ever meet in your whole life. All he would have to hear from you was that you wanted to do something, and he would make damn sure that you had an opportunity to do it. And if you weren't good at it, he would let you follow through with your first attempt. And oh man, he was a terrific friend. I just got through a very rough spring, helping take care of him and ultimately bury him. And it has been very hard on all of the OGs, all the OGs from his shop. Sadly, it's brought us all really close together. There are people that are now Oscar winners that are from that shop. There are people that are homeless that are from that shop, but we all kind of clung to each other throughout the process of John dying. And I will say that I am just so completely impressed that you could go 30 years and go back together and it all be just like it was in 1984, It's been a very remarkable time for me. Sad to see John go, of course, but...
Well, speaking of Buechler, I mean, one thing about the New Blood that always stood out to me is you could tell there's such a passion involved when it came to John and his work in the movie. Like it like a lot of these movies, and I don't mean Friday the 13th movies, films in general, you could tell a lot of it's paycheck movies, but the New Blood, it felt like from the beginning to the very end, you could tell that Buechler just really wanted to give the fans everything that they kind of wanted in the franchise and more. And it's one of those films that really stands out for that fact.
John was the first on set to get to set, and he was the last to leave. And he would work in 5 below zero weather, wearing flip-flops and shorts and tank tops, his legendary directing outfit. And you're 100% right. John was absolutely fearless, and he really wanted to make a good movie. And I really do think he made a good movie,
Now, it's been like well documented that, when Barbara Sachs came into the picture with this, she kind of had somewhat of a disdain for the franchise, and said that she kind of wanted New Blood to be she wanted New Blood to win an Oscar,
Yeah, so, I mean, she hated it.
Was that ever like an issue working on the set?
Yes, it was an issue every single day. Every inch of that movie was an issue. But I have to say, with a lot of these big company movies, and even the movies that I've done that are, medium-sized franchises, production companies, they fuck with you the whole fucking way. Like you think that they're gonna love you because you're gonna help them make millions, and from day one they're telling you don't know what you're talking about. It's always the same. It's never not that way. The only way it's not that way is if you pay for the movie. They fucked with him every step of the way. They fucked with Jeff Burr even worse, but that's a whole other TV show.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've interviewed Jeff, I think, twice this year, and some of the stories are just...
Oh, my God, they stomped.
Insanity. Yeah.
But anyway. And, the thing is that the bottom line is, me and Mike Deke sort of invented this philosophy in 1986 when we were, underneath 2 inches of plywood with 8,000 gallons of mildewed goo pouring down through the cracks of the puppet ramp, with our hands crammed up these fucking puppets, and just being so miserable and being so unhappy. And then we would just be like, I would just start laughing, and he's like, "Why are you laughing?" I'm like, You know what's funny? Is in like 3 years, this video cassette's going to be dusty on some fucking bookshelf, and people are seldom are going to even think about this, and nobody is going to be thinking about how uncomfortable we are. And that's kind of what you have to do when you're making a movie, because a film set is a very volatile playground, very volatile. Even on its best day, there's either someone that's crazy, someone that's stealing, someone that's on blow, someone that's a drunk, someone that's a bitch, someone that's no longer famous that does not know that they're no longer. There's always something, you know. So the best you can do is try to see the good parts and just stick with it.
So what were some of the things you guys did then to relieve those tensions? Like you said, it can be volatile. Tell me a little bit about what went on behind the scenes to relieve some of that tension once the cameras aren't rolling.
We fucked, and we did a lot of blow, and we did tons of drinking. Anything else? There was a good amount of that, but I can't. Actually, most of it was coming from me and not from the other actors. But you know, I was very. Somebody's.
Whoa! What was that?
I think someone's toast is done. But anyway,
I thought your dog was making strange noises.
We were all. He might have died. I don't hear him breathing anymore. Where is he? Oh God! Sweep him under the carpet. Anyway, yes, we were all 21 and 23 years old, and you know, this is. I'm not speaking on behalf of the actors. I'm speaking on behalf of the crew, most of which are dead now. So I'll point out to you. There was a great deal of cocaine usage going on during the film. It was during a time where using blow on set was not considered partying as much as it was considered a necessity for a night shoot. And we were having it FedExed into the set in birthday cards. This is before 9/11, when you could basically send a bomb through FedEx if you wanted to. The FBI, if you're listening, that was a joke. Anyway. Oh my
God.
No, but
FedEx shipments of cocaine.
Magazine, and I get magazines with
in birthday cards. Is the best part of that.
Happy birthday.
Wait. Did you say magazines with coke in it?
Yes. It's taped in there. Yes, we get that. And you wanted an interview, right?
I'm just picturing the birthday card getting delivered to the wrong person and going to a little kid.
Okay, first of all, there would not be one person on set that would be surprised by any of that. This is a different time. All the production staff was on GAC, all of them. And we would just do it during the during the night shoots. I happen to have accidentally poured an entire gram on the ground inside a porta potty in the middle of the night because I was fumbling around in the darkness. I wasn't exactly the most popular human being on set that particular night, but lucky it was someone's birthday the next day, so problem solved.
You mentioned Kane, and I from past conversations you and I have had, you mentioned that he would pull pranks on you, or was it urinate in your trailer or something?
No. First of all, that came from him. But okay. The funny things about Kane are, first of all, Kane does not do drugs, and I don't even think he drinks, frankly. So I want to make it very clear that I'm not talking about the actors. I really am not. Don't know what the actors were up to. But I can tell you, I partied my ass off with the crew. Let me think. Was there any actors? No, I mostly just banged around with a bunch of them. But anyway. Kane. So Kane could not only vomit on command, which is very entertaining. He also does all these stupid fart jokes and all this. He's just stupid. He'll punch you in the stomach, He's just. I just absolutely love him. I still am in touch with him. I speak to him at least once a month. Recently, we started talking to Vigo because I forget why. There was something. Vigo Vigo obviously was nominated for an Oscar. That's why we started talking to him, and we were telling him congratulations. But then Kane and I started hanging out, and then Kane and I started taking care of Buechler. And he's good. The thing about him peeing in my dressing room, I guess that's true. I must have been slow because I never noticed it. I asked him the other day, I was like, what the fuck is that? Somebody said he wrote it in a book or whatever. What the fuck is that? He goes, yeah, I used to pee in your dressing room all the time. I go, why? He goes, to see if you'd smell it when you went in there. I was like, what the fuck? Well, how is that pranking me? I don't understand. First of all, I was too out of my mind to like even, and on the chainsaw in particular, I was like so shaky all the time because it was a very nerve-wracking experience with all those chainsaws and getting beat up and all that shit. And I guess he was. I guess he says he was doing that. I don't know that he was doing that. If I would have known that, I would have taken a shit in his dressing room. Just so.
Well, there's still time. There's still time for payback.
Yeah, time. Well, they barely give dressing rooms anymore, so I'll just have to shit somewhere on the set. But anyway.
So coming from an effects background too, like where you had designed or had like implemented some of the makeup and the effects, what sort of disappointments were there when you saw how much this movie got hacked to shreds by the MPA at the end?
My God, I couldn't believe when I went to the rough cut. I got invited to the rough cut. It was in near UCLA, and there was no effects in it.
Oh wow!
It didn't make any sense. And I'm sure you guys have heard this before. If you watch a horror film with no scary music, you're like, "What the fuck is this?" People walking around like it was. I was like, "I'm never going to work again. John's never going to work again. This movie is garbage." And they finally let him start putting some of the effects back in. They had it cut so tight, and not on John's behalf, on the MPAA's behalf. They finally let him put, because it wasn't making any sense,
Right. Mm-hmm.
They put it back in, and they put that magnificent music in there, and that it was really great. And I was never more proud.
Now, when it came to the MPAA kind of taking a machete to the film, so to speak, I mean, do you think that was mostly the MPAA, or was it kind of that mentality that we mentioned? Barbara Sachs kind of had this kind of disdain for the franchise. Did she not? Was she not on board with kind of what she got into?
Well, first of all, I wasn't privy to any meetings.
Yeah,
I can tell you this: that her main beefs were like with story and not so much effects. Like, and I feel like out of all the Friday the 13th, I feel like this movie has a lot of story in it, actually. Doesn't it? Or am I just saying that? I think it does.
Well, it's something that the franchise hadn't seen before. I mean, a lot of those slasher franchises, I mean, it's very unique to throw, 7 movies in to throw, a telekinetic, adversary to Jason. It's very interesting.
And it's the first one that throws like a human villain into the series as well.
Right. So, I think she was more concerned. It was like an old 1940s movie. They were rewriting the movie every single day. The actors were getting new pages every single day. We were like, what's this? Oh, we added a scene where you're doing this. Oh, okay. It was like,
is that frustrating as an actor to, is it frustrating to have to change every day to what maybe you had prepared yourself to do already?
No, because when you're in a Friday the 13th, your job is to look cute and have good hair and look cool when you get killed. It's not really your terms of endearment. You know what I mean? It's like, you're thrilled to be there. You got a hotel. You're in Alabama for almost 2 months, and no, it's fun. And the scenes aren't hard. They're not. What's her name? Lar had the hardest stuff. Acting horror material, I think, is harder than acting just straight material, because you have to convince the audience of such bullshit, and you have to really commit to it and really make that shine. And as a person who managed to do that about, maybe 80% of the time that I tried, I can tell you that it's very difficult.
30 years later, New Blood comes out in 88. Did you ever imagine that 30 years later, people would still bring you those glossies to sign at conventions of, your character?
I got to tell you something. It's the ones, no, I would say it's 50-50. It's Night of the Living Dead, and also in that one, it's half and half. I'm surprised that whenever I just came back from England to do a big convention, a zombie convention out there. I can't even believe that anyone even knew who I was. I barely remember performing in some of these things. It's such an honor and so flattering, and everyone's just so nice. And horror fans are a very particular bunch. We are, for sure.
Mhm.
But if we're anything, we're dedicated, And yes, I'm very surprised that happens. And yes, I'm very grateful. And everyone that has been in a Friday the 13th, when you go to a convention, there's this strange, sort of alumni sort of feel that you have this camaraderie with the person, even if they weren't in your movie, because it's serious. At that time period, if you were in a Friday the 13th, you were in the mix in Hollywood. They didn't give those parts away. You had to earn.
So it's almost like these conventions have kind of given your the career a second life. You're always getting some attention or some remembrance overall from stuff. And like you said, has there ever been a movie someone's brought up that you've been in and you're like, I don't remember any of that at all?
Let me think. Well, first of all, I kind of transitioned from acting to director.
Mm-hmm.
I went out of the spotlight of performing, but I've always kind of kept pushing forward. I go through life with a battling ram. But let me think. There's some.
Well, wasn't there that convention that you did? I think you and I were both at the convention in a Tulare disaster. But didn't someone bring up something that had to do with Halloween, and you weren't even in that movie?
Oh yeah, that was funny. Didn't I sign it anyway?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Well, I was too embarrassed.
Yeah, because I think my table.
What else I love also is sometimes I'm fatter and older now. You have to understand, in some of these movies, I was 17 years old. I'm 55 now. So sometimes they'll look at a picture that's on my table, and because I don't look like a gazelle anymore, they'll think I'm the killer, and they'll go, "Will you sign it?" And I go, "Yeah, what do you want me to sign it?" And they point on the Leatherface, and they go, "Sign right here where you're standing." I'm like, "Okay, you got it." And then sometimes I'll just write a different name or all right, whatever.
That's great.
It's terrific. I'll sign your grandmother for $25. I don't care. Bring it up.
Right.
Bring your
partner. You mentioned that transition from performing to directing, which you've had, a good career in doing. I mean, you've worked as a director very consistently. Was it an easy transition? I mean, was your passion more in directing, or what kind of inspired that thing?
So what happened was, at around 36, I did nothing but play like best friends in everything, like the best friend or the friend of the lead. And I did not know how to be a character actor. I had no idea. And all I knew how to do was, go in, be made up, and read the lines. I studied, but didn't know how to be a character actor. And then I turned 36, and I no longer looked like a college student. And they didn't know what to do with me,
Mm-hmm.
And it was either I started putting on weight because for me, in order for me to stay skinny, I cannot eat any food, which thankfully I'm back on because I'm so tired of everyone telling me I put on weight. But back then I didn't eat any food. And I started eating. The more successful I got, I would eat. And I started putting away, and I was like, oh my God, I don't look like a racehorse anymore. And I don't know how to, and it's my feedback on my auditions was, tell him to lose 20 or gain 40, one or the other. He's too far. He's in the middle. And they were right, even though it's rude. They were correct. And I just didn't want to do that. And I didn't know how to be the goofy, bumbling, fat person. And I wasn't pretty enough or talented enough to move on to become Viggo Mortensen. You know what I mean? I just kind of was oh, this kind of for that time period, it had kind of run its course. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I started doing voice work on Power Rangers. I started playing some of the villains on Power Rangers. And from there, I became friends with several of the executives from Saban Entertainment. And from that, I got placed on a show that was called The Basement. It was a Fox Family show where I did some voices of some weird characters, puppets on there. And I became friends. And I started, Viggo and I were roommates at the time, and we were working on a little short film. And I showed it to Eric Roman, and Viggo had just kind of started becoming famous. So suddenly I became the guy that knew famous people, even though Viggo and I had been eating dog food for 15 years before Viggo, And so then suddenly it was oh, would you want to direct Power Rangers? I was like, okay. And, it's I directed some Power Rangers, and I started directing TV commercials, and I just, I learned eventually that I'm a much better writer, certainly much better writer, and certainly much better director than I ever was an actor. And there's not so much upkeep. I've got the crazy in my head to manage being an actor because you got to be a little loopy and crazy. But I just don't really know. You have to kind of truly know yourself in order to like convince other people. I don't really know myself anymore as much as I used to, or I thought I knew myself. So I think I might indicate a little bit while I act. I think I might kind of still, be one of those people that still glances at the camera. I don't know if I can do it anymore. Although I've lost a bunch of weight. I'm kind of thinking about it, but I don't really know. We'll see. Right now, I'm loving directing. I'm leaving on. I leave on Saturday to go direct a film up north, and I'm very excited about that. I have a movie coming out at Christmas time, so it's been a busy time. But I don't think I would mind acting again if it came back around. I guess if I knew how to do it.
Well, I've always loved that about your career. I mean, it seems like you're involved in every facet of filmmaking. I mean, from the beginning to special effects to acting to directing. I mean, nowadays you kind of do everything, like with the films that films that you've been making. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to. I think you do. Maybe not. Maybe if you're brilliant. But like even Vigo, Vigo's now like acting all the time, and he just finished directing a movie. He's cutting it, and I think if you just love cinema, I know Jerry loves it. I know Jerry's involved in writing and creating films and stuff, and it's just. I mean, let's face it, guys. Sometimes we don't make money at these freaking things, but you just got to do it. Like I just had this Three Bears movie coming out in December, and I think everyone around me is going to make a fortune, and I probably will not make. I'll probably make the $7,000 that I made when I created the movie, and that'll be it because I'm the last in line. But I'm already planning on another one, so I guess if you love it, then you keep doing it.
I have to ask though, what inspired the book you're writing? I mean, having talked to you, many times, you always have such really great meaty stories, and so fun to listen to them. What made you want to write a book about it?
Okay, so all through the 80s and 90s, I kept very, very copious diaries. Like I have 25 diaries that have so many stories in them, and the one thing that I kept my toe dipped in acting was I do these monologue shows here in Los Angeles. Well, they just have like these storytelling shows. Well, they'll just say, do you have an interesting story? And I would say, I kind of want to do this because I'm afraid of it, which I love doing things that I'm terrified of. I said, yeah, I'm really scared, but I started out by reading some of my like first loves, and they're just such garbage and so embarrassing and so desperate, and that got a lot of laughs. And then I kind of ran out of those stories. So I think the first one I told was when I worked on Cellar Dweller, and Yvonne DiCarlo kind of verbally attacked me in 100 different ways, and it got huge laughs. So I shifted gears from reading stories. Henry, stop panting. I shifted gears from telling stories about my pitiful love life to my pitiful movie career. No, anyway, so I started telling the stories about celebrities that most of them were dead, so they wouldn't care, and none of the stories are mean-spirited. And I got a lot of traction. I suddenly started getting invited to like all of these monologue shows. So because I was getting such attention on that, and I have tons of like people that can give you a career on my Facebook page, I started posting some of the stories that got huge reactions. And I did that for about, I guess, 3 or 4 years. And I got, oh man, I almost said who it was. I can't tell you who it is, but it's a very good book company. I got a instant message from one of the publishers from that company. And they said, we've been coming to your show and we love your stories. And I was like, thank you. And they were like, have you ever considered putting them in a book? And I was like, people say that, but I'm fucking William Butler. Like, I was mid-shelf, known, famous at best. Like, who the fuck is going to care? They're like, we've already done the math, and we know we can sell like 2,000 books, even if you just going to conventions and pushing them.
So I mean, you're the Mickey Rooney of horror.
You're right, and they brought that up. So they're like, we're not worried about it. If we sell 2,000 books, because they have outlet deals, so. They have deals that they have to meet. So like in summer of 2020, they have to deliver 10 autobiographies, and so I would just help fulfill that. So it wouldn't be like a lot of pressure on them or me because they just have to have books on the shelves, you know. So it's not that I'm special. So for anyone that's listening and rolling their eyes, trust me, I was rolling my eyes when she was asking me, because I was like, who the fuck's going to care about? But then as I started writing it, I was like, all right, these are pretty juicy stories. If they end up staying in there, excuse me, I have a hiccup so bad. It's definitely a book that it's easy to read. It's a lot of short stories. It's a lot of stories about famous people. It's a lot of stories about me being on drugs, things I've never told anyone. It's a lot of stories about when Vigo and I were roommates. And there's other bizarre things that no one knows. Like one summer when I was in the National Lampoon sketch show, there was a girl in the show. I'll try to make this really quick because I know the horror fans are not going to care. But there was a girl in the show that was a Madonna impersonator. And so I used to sing backup for her in some of the sketches for National Lampoon. They were parody songs. And one day she calls me. This is around 1996. And she says, what are you doing for the summer? And I say, nothing at all, literally. Everything had stalled at that point. She said, would you like to come to France with me and travel in my Madonna cover band and sing backup? And I was like, fuck yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, of course. So I get there, and I realize that they think I'm a singer and a dancer, right? And I'm like,
oh no,
I just do oohs and ahs. I don't do, no. You're here. You're going to learn how to do all this stuff. No, I'm not. Fuck you. I'm leaving. I start to leave. They block the door. They say, we don't really think you realize who you're working for. I'm like, what? They're like, the mob owns all these clubs.
Oh no!
You have a one-way ticket. You're not going anywhere until the end of the summer. So I will spare everyone this. All I have to say is you have to read about it. You will not believe it. The story ends 3.5 months later with me and this girl, dropping out of the second-story window of a French hotel room, and her blowing the taxi cab driver for us to go into Paris and try to get an airplane ticket home. I mean, it was
escape the mob.
It was bad. So
okay, I do have to ask though, is your Prince story going to be in the book?
It's already in there. It's on page 30.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Any of our listeners get the book, even just for that story. It's one of my favorite stories around.
Yeah. It's on page 30. Yeah, I try to get the book company is like, all right, yeah. Get to the heart. But it's like all this shit kind of led up to I was like a painfully shy, abused, verbally, physically, mentally abused kid that could barely speak, and that somehow turned my shit around and got into all this stuff. And so, I feel like for anybody else that lived through the crap that I lived through, I'm going to put a little bit of that in there at least to the thing that's cool about a book is I know that it won't be any kind of a big deal, but the thing that's cool about writing a book, and I'm sure, Jerry, you feel this about your writing as well, is when we're dead, isn't it interesting that someday someone will pull out something that you wrote and they'll read it? It's so interesting to me. And I thought.
Well, yeah, that's why I primarily tried to go full time into print instead of web work, is because you can lose that stuff online. I'd rather have something tangible, that my kids or any other
right
horror fans could just read in general.
Right, and it's kind of like acting, where it's I wake up at 3:00 in the morning and I hear my own voice, and I look on the TV and there I am in some movie that I don't remember making, but that's cool, and I'm young and beautiful, thank God. But how cool is it that if there are somebody walks by and they go, oh, this nerd looks cool, I'm gonna read about him, to me that's really good, and I'm gonna really try really hard to try to I don't have kids, I'm not gonna leave anything behind, so for me it's very special that I'm going to be able to leave this book behind on whatever level, that it'll be there if anyone ever gives a shit to know about who I was. So I'm so thankful, and I'm very shocked,
And when does this hit the shelves? Like you said, 2020, it sounds like?
I think so, late summer of 2020, probably maybe around Halloween 2020, because I know I have to turn it in on March, and they'll completely rewrite it, I'm sure. But particularly that I was raised in the carnival and have horrible grammar, but who's counting? But anyway, yeah. So that book is really, really. I'm very honored, and I feel very pressured, and yes, Prince throwing his nuts in my face is in the book.
It's really. I don't think we could end on any better note than that. So
if that's not a cliffhanger, I don't know what is.
I think that like I really think if you could come on every show at the end and just say that, I think we could end every episode.
Just use it as a button on your show. Like, I'll never forget the time when I was 13 when Prince put his nuts in my face.
All right.
Anyway. All right, you guys. Man, I sure do appreciate you guys thinking of me. I really do, and I wish you every happiness.
Well, thank you so much. And if our schedules allow, like, we would love to have you on again to talk about eventually Leatherface and also the Return of the Living Dead series.
Yes, whatever you want. So anything definitely. For Jerry. Jerry's like Tony Timpone. Whatever he asks for, he gets. So.
All right, perfect.
All right,
great, man. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you, and good luck heading out this month.
Okay, I'm gonna try to hang up now.
All right, let's see how it goes.
Gibby, you can start coughing again. Gibby. All right, bye.
Bye. All right.
That was great, man. That was really fun. Hey everybody, we want to say thank you once again for listening. We hope you enjoyed our bonus episode with William Butler from who played Mike over in Friday the 13th, Part 7, A New Blood. That interview was a hell of a lot of fun to conduct, and some of the stuff we actually had to leave on the cutting room floor was gold, but we just didn't want any hurt feelings. If you are listening, thank you so much, and we actually have a little bit of a giveaway this weekend. So if you go over to our Twitter page, Pod and Pendulum, number 1, give us a follow. Number 2, we're going to have a little pinned post there asking what your favorite horror TV series is of all time. If you follow us and leave a comment there, you will be entered to win the television show Hannibal complete series 1 through 3, and there really should have been more of that. That really was such a baller show. You will win the complete series, a digital download of that for you to keep forever. So that's a little giveaway we're doing right now. The weekend this show comes out, go to Pod and Pendulum over at Twitter, leave us a comment on your favorite horror TV show of all time, and you could win that very easily. We'll be back on Monday with Jason Takes Manhattan with special guest Brad McCarg. We're really excited to bring that episode over. I think that was a lot of fun to record. We did that last night. We have a lot of very cool stuff coming up in the pipe works going forward. So thank you once again for listening. If you can right now, go over, take a moment, head over to iTunes, leave us a quick review. We need 5-star reviews. I can tell you that every time we get one, we see our numbers jump. It does help new people find us. Jerry and I absolutely love bringing this show to everyone, and we want to bring it to as many people as possible. So thank you once again for listening. Have a fantastic week, and we will be back again this coming Monday with Jason Takes Manhattan.
Venmo, forget Venmo.
Yeah.
And then I thought Venmo was Vimeo, and I even mispronounced it Vimeo forever. So
it sounds like a sandwich.
I'd like a Vimeo sandwich, if you please. Yeah, I'm old. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Jerry was telling me it should have been like a Netflix comedy special trying to get you set up.
I know. And look, I don't even look that old, but my brain, and we all know why my brain is old. There's a lot of reasons. Technology is not my friend.
That's funny.
Oh, so do you prefer William or Bill or Will? Like, what's your preference?
Let's see. Do I know you?
No, we've never spoken.
Okay, you can call me William. No, I'm kidding. You can call me Billy.
Can I call you sir?
Okay, well, that all depends.